That was a good org meeting this morning.
Wow. I mean, I'm still kind of amazed. Oops. I like that there's like when you go to pin people, there's like another button that says remove from
it because my teams have been acting up, and when I go to, pin someone or move them down as attendees, all their information wipes out.
Oof.
And so I have to keep.
When people are coming in, it's jumpy. I just demoted Dami. Is that okay?
Yeah, because I'm having a tough time doing anybody right now.
I got it. Ms. Messer, are you going to be using a PowerPoint today, or are you just here on standby? You're just here. Alice has been demoted.
My next door neighbor is a instrument.
Thank God it's not like a tuba teacher or the worst. I love the sound of a banjo, but like next to your face, it is the loudest instrument ever. Like,
living in Louisiana.
Very loud.
Yes, they are very loud.
They need a muffler. Like you have to play it with a bag over it or something. Okay, so I suppose 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just waiting for the gentleman to arrive. All right. Well, it is 3:32 and we have a quorum and then some. So I am going to look to Sherry, make sure that we're recording. There's a little delay from when you press. Yep, there it is.
There we go. Yep.
Okay. I will call the meeting of the St. Paul City Council to order. Roll call.
Naker, Prince.
Here.
Tao.
Here.
Tolbert. Yang.
Here.
Jalali.
Here.
Council President Brenmon.
Here.
5 present, 2 absent, being Council Members Naker and Tolbert, and Councilmember Naker is excused.
All right, please stand and join as Council Member Prince leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Consent agenda items 2 through 9. Oh, I'm sorry, Council President.
Oh, I was just going to ask my colleagues. I think that many of us know that this week a legend really of the City Council of the City of St. Paul passed away, Chuck Repke. And I know that there are people, I met with former council member Thune over lunch to talk about ways that we can celebrate a life well lived and contributions that made a huge impact on individuals as well as on our city. And so intention would be to soon, maybe as soon as we're back in chambers, to have resolution and an opportunity for people to share stories about Mr. Repke. But for now, before we get started, I would just like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge that true St. Paul legend that passed this week. Thank you. And please, to Gloria and the family, know that our hearts are with you as you remember Chuck, and we look forward to celebrating with you in the weeks to come.
Consent agenda items 2 through 19 are before you for your consideration.
We will be taking item number 16 and 18 separately to modify and add a version 2. Is there anything else that should be taken separately? Seeing none, Ms. Yang moves the balance of the consent agenda. Roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The consent agenda is adopted as amended. Item 16, Resolution 21-1102, approving the mayor's reappointments of Alonda McIntosh, Sherry Reimers, Tony Lushiba, James McLean, Ramona Wilson, Chad Kulis, Chris Tolbert, and Becky Demjanoffer to Workforce Innovation Board of Ramsey County.
And on this item, I will move a version 2. There's just a mistake in the appointment. Becky is actually being appointed to a county board. The position that the mayor would like to appoint is to Tanya Vilacek, and that is in version 2. I think that was just an error in inputting. Any discussion on version 2, which we'll vote as one to pass? And I'll speak in support of this motion from Mr. Tolbert, because Mr. Tolbert will continue to serve on the Workforce Innovation Board. We appreciate your service there and know that we've been really excited getting our reports from Ms. Becker with the great work she's doing at the Workforce Innovation Board. So glad to see you're back up and continuing the good work. Any other discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted as amended. Item 18, Resolution 21-1113, honoring Joyce Maddox for her service to the city and declaring August 5th, 2021 as Joyce Maddox Day.
Councilmember Prince.
Thank you, Council President Brenman. Now, listen, everyone who's watching this. This is a surprise for tomorrow. So please don't mention anything about it. Tomorrow is Joyce's birthday, and the family is trying to keep this recognition a surprise. So anyone that sees this, don't mention it to Joyce. I am moving a version 2 for this very special member of our community who has served the city in various capacities on boards and commissions for 34 years. So in any event, and she has a milestone birthday tomorrow. So again, don't say it.
All right. So there's a very quiet motion coming from Councilmember Prince on version 2. And I think version 2 fills out the whereas. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Any discussion on that motion? And I guess once she knows, maybe we'll get a chance to talk about it a little bit more, but it sounds like a lovely reason to celebrate. Seeing that Ms. Prince moves this resolution, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is adopted as amended. Item 20 is first reading of ordinance 21-27, amending legislative code chapters 60, 63, 65, and 66 pertaining to off-street parking requirements.
All right. And I believe we have a staff report on this item. I apologize. I'm not sure who is giving that staff report.
Hi, Tony here.
Oh, of course I know that. Mr. Johnson, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you need to, are you going to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to make you, just give me 1 second and I'm going to promote you to presenter. There you go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. I'm happy to be here today to present the citywide parking study that I've been working on for a while. So this parking study was initiated in 2018 by the Planning Commission in order to help us implement policies from both the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan and also the Comprehensive Plan, such as achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, reducing vehicle miles traveled by 40% by 2040, and furthering the production and preservation of affordable housing. In response to these policy documents and also the direction of the Planning Commission, staff developed 2 packages of amendments. One package of amendments fully eliminates minimum parking requirements, and the other package of amendments would reduce minimum parking requirements. On March 19th, the Planning Commission released the study for public review and set a public hearing for April 30th, 2021. And we set a little bit longer review period than we typically would in order to give us time to do outreach to various groups around the city. So during the public review portion of the study, staff gave 2 webinars that were open to anyone citywide. And we also gave presentations to any district council that requested one, but also business associations and other neighborhood groups as well. So for the webinars and the district council presentations, we developed a storybook format presentation to help convey this very complicated study in a more simple way. And we use characters such as Renter Renee and Homeowner Harriet and Shopkeeper Shauna to help us convey how our current parking policy creates issues in these different policy buckets, so such as housing affordability, business flexibility, economic development, transportation options, and climate change. And we also were able to convey with this, this presentation how reducing or eliminating parking minimums would help increase housing affordability and reduce construction costs, give flexibility to small business owners who want to use their off-street parking for other uses, how reducing or eliminating parking minimums would support economic growth, and how it would reduce our emissions and make walking, biking, and taking transit more appealing. But minimum parking requirements are only a part of the proposed amendments. With these amendments, they're also intended to actively make it easier and more appealing for people to walk, bike, and take transit. And these kinds of strategies are called travel demand management, or TDM. And these TDM strategies support our parking strategies and vice versa. So our parking strategy to right-size the parking supply is supported by our TDM strategies because they help manage demand for parking by promoting high-quality alternatives to driving, such as walking, biking, and transit. So how will the proposed TDM program work? In the proposed TDM program, the city will provide a menu of tools designed to make it easier to walk, bike, and take transit. With those tools, developers would then be able to choose from that menu for their new development, which would then support walking, biking, and transit usage from those developments. And this menu of tools will be called the TDM Program Standards Guide, which is included in the materials along with the ordinance. And this guide includes tools like subsidized bus passes, protected bike parking, and incorporating street calming elements into the design of new developments. And one of the changes that we are proposing with the TDM program is changing the threshold. So the proposed TDM ordinance would be applied to any development that has 25 or more residential units, or any development that has 20,000 square feet or more of a non-residential use. In addition to the TDM updates, the proposed amendments also decouple bike parking requirements from vehicular parking requirements, and create bike parking requirements that are specific to land uses. They also streamline processes and standards for developing parking. And then there's also a number of other amendments and other chapters which are intended to kind of support these larger policy ideas. So on April 30th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider public testimony. In total, we had 237 comments submitted online, and we had 4 people that spoke at the public hearing who also submitted comments. The public overwhelmingly supported the option to eliminate minimum parking requirements. So about 70% of the people that submitted comments supported that option, followed by the status quo, none of the above, at around 15%. So after considering the public testimony, the Planning Commission then met again on June 25th, and the Planning Commission at that meeting voted 17-2 to recommend that the City Council adopts the full elimination package of amendments, which is before you in the ordinance. And so with that, I would be happy to take any questions that people have. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Mr. Stolbert has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Johnson, you mentioned the decoupling the parking requirements from the bike requirements. Are there other parts in our ordinances that we rely on parking requirements to get other benefits, or where things are coupled together? Are there still other things in the ordinance that will be affected by this?
Chair Brenmon, Councilmember Tolbert. So that's part of the amendments in the other kind of chapters that I quickly mentioned. So for example, in chapter 65, that's where we have standards that are specific to land uses, and a lot of them will mention parking requirements. And in the full elimination option, one of the things that we had to do was go and kind of fix those inconsistencies so that there's not those issues anymore.
Okay, so the proposal before this proposal before us addresses every other part of our ordinances that rely on the parking minimums?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And as a result of those changes, are there any it's probably not the right word, but consequences? Are there any other reactions, I should say? Like, what are other things going to happen by the elimination of those other things that were coupled together at a previous time with park?
Sure. So I don't believe so, and we did our best to kind of address different implications. One thing that we didn't have time to fix, but it doesn't come up that much, is there was something in our stormwater ordinance that basically said if you go over the minimum, you have to do more stormwater things. And without a minimum, that piece of code doesn't make sense. And so we took it out. But with that being said, that particular provision doesn't get triggered that often. And so I don't see any big effects to our stormwater management production with this change. So that's one, but that's something we might want to revisit and see if there's a way we can still promote stormwater in parking lots without tying it to a minimum.
So is it because it's too complicated, or I don't understand it? You didn't have enough time to write the ordinance change on the stormwater part, or?
Yeah, well, we would have had to develop a new way to do it. One thing that I think makes sense, and when talk to my father, who's a civil engineer, who also thinks this approach makes sense, would be to tie it to impervious surface coverage. I wasn't able to find another city that has taken that approach yet. And so that's something we may want to follow up on later and see if we can develop an approach. That.
Okay. But every other, because my understanding just from, and I don't have the specific examples, but my understanding is we've often used the parking minimums as a way to either give bonuses for other policies we like or to have trade-offs. And every other one you've changed, this proposal changes and we're still able to get those trade-off benefits in a different way, or?
Oh, sure. So,
could you talk about the different couplings?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that, minimum parking requirements does is it does allow us to incentivize different things. So like bike parking, for example, our current bike parking requirements are very low compared to other cities. And so the main way that we get bike parking in St. Paul currently is because people want a reduction in their minimum parking requirements. And so one of the benefits of decoupling it and making a bike parking requirement that's tied to land use is we're both able to lower the bike parking requirements so that we'll get more bike parking, but also it doesn't have to be tied to parking, and we can get more production in bike parking that way. We also have other kind of incentives to get a minimum reduction in your minimum parking requirements, such as doing shared parking. And the way that we handle that is that we included it in our TDM program standards guide. And so if you wanted to do a shared vehicle, for example, you could get points for your TDM plan, and we create an incentive in that way.
And that's a good kind of question that I had with the shared parking, because I know we've used that as the incentive with minimum parking to get the shared parking or the shared vehicle use. Do you think we'll still continue to get the amount be able to get that amount with this approach and the elimination of the parking minimums? Equal out, or is it going to be, are we going to see different policy results on those things that we all?
Sure. To be honest with you, in my experience, a lot of times, even with the current ordinance, a lot of people don't do shared vehicles. And there's not a lot of companies anymore that want to do kind of the shared vehicle with a specific development. They're more moving towards a model of trying to do shared cars and public streets, such as our EV, shared car infrastructure that we're trying to build around the city. So I don't foresee that having much of a difference in the production of shared, getting shared vehicles incorporated into different developments. And again, there is still that incentive because it is in the TDM guide. So if someone wanted to do it and could get a company that was willing to partner with them on it, there would still be an incentive because they needed to meet their TDM requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Prince.
Thank you, Council President Brennan. Mr. Johnson, one thing I am concerned about is that we still have lots of neighborhoods that are moving toward permit parking because they don't want to have the overflow parking from business and housing in their neighborhoods so that they don't lose their off-street parking. And permit parking, I'm presuming, is something that we are continuing to offer at the city. One of the issues I have with permit parking is that I think neighborhoods that get it believe that they're going to have good enforcement. And I think it's very hard for our parking enforcement people to keep up with enforcing permit parking areas. But I'm just wondering if we have looked at whether or not this is going to be moving neighborhoods in the direction of seeking more permit parking, because they don't want the large housing development coming in without a parking minimum, and they're concerned about their neighborhoods getting filled up with on-street parking from a neighboring development. So have you heard from people about permit parking, or have we looked at the permit parking ordinance to think about restrictions we want to put on that? Because I just don't see that need going away in some of our neighborhoods.
Sure. Councilor President Bredmone, Councilmember Prince, we did not evaluate our permit parking ordinance and are not proposing changes as a part of this study. With that being said, I don't think we should think that eliminating minimum parking requirements doesn't mean that the city isn't going to have work to do with parking policy or different parking issues in places of the city. And so if we get concentrated development in a particular area that has a lot of spillover parking, we may need to look at different parking management and curb management strategies, such as permit parking or pricing parking, to help manage demand. And I think one thing to also consider in that regard is, in St. Paul, we've done this before, and so we've never had minimums downtown, and we've never had minimums on the Green Line, or we haven't had minimums on the Green Line for about 10 years. And so we've seen development, and development's getting concentrated, and there is, some places where on-street parking is getting tight, but we haven't, gone in and done extensive permit parking along the Green Line as of yet. And so that's something I think we need to manage over time. But something I don't see as being an immediate issue, if we eliminate minimum parking requirements. And we're also, throughout this process, we've been talking extensively with DSI and Public Works. And so we'll continue to work with them on potential changes that need to be made to on-street parking policy if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And I have one other question, and maybe this is a big one. I just want to understand what you looked at both elimination and reduction, and I wonder if you could just say a few words about what the reduction would have looked like, and whether or not it makes any sense for us as a city to be starting with a reduction and moving to an elimination, do it in sort of a phased approach. I wondered if you could speak to that.
Sure. So the reduced option works by, it introduces kind of two things to the code. One thing is administrative reductions in your minimum parking requirements. And the way that we did that in that option is we tied a parking reduction to TDM measures in the program standards guide. And so in that option, because of the TDM tying a parking requirement or parking reduction to TDM measures, it would be possible to get to theoretically any parking ratio that you want for a new development. But they would have to institute more TDM measures in order to do that. So in that way, we're offsetting, parking demand by trying to get them to do things that will shift travel behavior. The other thing that option did was introduce targeted exemptions for different things. So in that option, we are proposing to eliminate parking minimums near high capacity transit lines, so BRT, LRT, or streetcar. We are proposing an exemption for small businesses. So the first 3,000 square feet of any commercial use wouldn't have had a parking minimum. We also propose an exemption for buildings that are built before 1955 from a minimum parking requirement that results from a change of use. And the reason why we chose that date is that's the date we introduced parking requirements in St. Paul. So anything before then wasn't built with parking requirement and conceivably didn't, wasn't built with parking. And so that was a way to kind of handle reuse of historic structures with that. And we also proposed an exemption for affordable housing units that are 60% AMI or less. And in addition, we did a couple tweaks to that as well that kind of lowered the parking requirement. So, for example, we simplified the residential requirement from being determined by the number of rooms to just one per unit. And so that was a slight reduction that in our analysis would have helped reduce variances and would have reduced the parking requirement pretty significantly on residential projects.
So is there a reason that we wouldn't maybe do this on a phased approach? Start with the reduction and then maybe a year or two down the line move to a full elimination?
Sure. So the Planning Commission and the public and a lot of their comments just expressed the simplicity of the simplicity of the full elimination approach. The other option would be effective and would help us meet our policy goals, both in the comp plan and climate action plan. But it could be cumbersome to implement, and it's just more confusing, and there's a lot more provisions in that approach. And so the Planning Commission felt because of the simplicity of full elimination, that was the better option to go with. Another thing to maybe think about with full elimination versus reduction is so I don't know what's going to be proposed for the 1 to 4 unit study, but if we allow 4 units citywide, the full elimination option would be more effective in helping promote those type of infill units citywide.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are there other questions from Mr. Johnson? It does not look like there's questions. This, as you mentioned, has been something that's been ruminating for a few years now. And, for me, a lot of the questions I have been answered throughout this process. So I don't ask 0 questions because I didn't have any. I feel that between the community process and the work at the Planning Commission, that a lot of the questions for me have been ironed out. But I do not see other questions at this time. Just a reminder to folks, this is the first reading of the ordinance with our new highfalutin 3 ordinance readings approach that we're taking. So next week will be the public hearing. It will be virtual. So please submit your comments online to us. We are coming to the end of our virtual meetings, hopefully, and we'll be back in our council chamber soon. But until that time, please submit your comments online and we will add them to the Legstar system so that council members can read your input and thoughts before, and we have for the public hearing next week. So if there are no other questions, let's lay the matter over for 1 week.
Item 21 is Ordinance 2131, granting the application of St. Albans LLC to rezone property at 695 Grand from B2 Community Business District to T3 Traditional Neighborhood District, amending Chapter 60 of the Legislative Code pertaining to the zoning map and denying the rezoning out of the EG East Grand Avenue Overlay District.
Because Mr. Johnson's still on the phone, I was remiss in not thanking him for his hard work on this and the briefings he offered and the work on the item beforehand. So thank you, Tony. We really appreciate you. So on to the item number 21. This is the item that this is a public hearing on the item. We had a staff report last week. There have been significant input from community members that are in Legistar. Encourage people to take an opportunity to read those. Just want people who have sent emails in or left voicemail messages know that all council members are able to see those on our legislation tracking system, which is called Legistar. So we have held this public hearing virtually. Last week, Ms. Naker made a request that we continue the public hearing to the third reading for third reading, final vote, but also to be here for the close of the public hearing and for the final vote, as she is not with us today. So does anyone have comments or remarks on this or want to save till next week at the public hearing? Looking to my colleagues. All right, then Ms. Jalali would move to continue the public hearing until next week for third hearing or third reading and a vote. And Sherry, I'm looking at you for some reason. We got to vote? We got to vote.
I think we should. It's not our normal procedure.
Okay, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is continued to August 11th. Item 22 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-182, approving the application of Trilingua Cinema for a sound level variance in order to present live amplified sound on August 20th at 1200 Payne Avenue, the play field behind Arlington Hills Rec Center.
All right, and this public hearing has been held virtually. As such, Ms. Yang would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Sorry. Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 23 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-183, approving the application of the Minnesota United FC v. Sporting KC MLS game for a sound level variance in order to present amplified sound on August 21st within the Street and Beer Garden area at Allianz Field, 400 Snelling Avenue North.
All right, and this item has had its public hearing virtually. As such, Mr. Tao moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 24 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-185, approving the application of Irish Fair of Minnesota for a sound level variance in order to present amplified sound on August 12th through August 15th at 200 Drive, Justice O'Hage Boulevard, Harried Island.
This public hearing has
Doctor.
been.
Sorry.
That's all right. Lots of words. This public hearing has been held virtually. As such, Mr. Tolbert moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Council President Brenmon.
Aye.
6 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 25 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-186, approving the application of Anderson Race Management for a sound level variance in order to present amplified sound on August 21st at Phelan Park Picnic Pavilion Patio.
And this hearing has been held virtually. As such, Ms. Yang moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali.
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 26 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-189, approving the application of one simple plan for a sound level variance in order to present live amplified sound on August 21st at 2 Wabasha Street, Raspberry Island Regional Park.
And this public hearing has been held virtually. As such, Ms. Prince would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao, Councilmember Tao. It looks like we might have lost him. It looks frozen for me.
Yeah, it looks frozen for me. Otherwise, he's really good at holding still.
Tolbert.
No, I lost it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yay.
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 27, Resolution Public Hearing 21-190, approving the application of Ginger Porcella for a sound level variance in order to present live amplified sound on August 28th at 1008 Grotto Street North.
And this public hearing was held virtually. As such, I would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 28, Resolution Public Hearing 21-192, authorizing the Department of Parks and Recreation to accept a donation in the amount of $25,000 from the Minnesota Vikings to support the Capital City Youth Tackle Football League and to amend the department grant fund budget by adding $25,000 to the financing and spending plans to reflect donated funds.
All right, and this public hearing has been held virtually. As such, Mr. Tao moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item number 29, Resolution Public Hearing 21-193, authorizing the Department of Parks and Recreation to accept funds in an amount up to $10,000 from the Capital Region Watershed District's Partner Grants Program, authorizing the proper city officials to execute an agreement with the CRWD and amending the financing and spending plan of the department in the amount of $10,000 to reflect funds received for the Parks Ambassadors Program.
We do need like a sound effect for the longest title every meeting. And that
I did
that's the winner.
reduce both this one and the one before from what was submitted.
You know, like the Daily Double on Jeopardy, that like makes that, we need something like that. But that's, if we had it, that's the sound would have just happened. So on this long one, this public hearing has been held virtually, and Ms. Prince would move to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. Item 30 is Resolution Public Hearing 21-196, authorizing the Office of Technology and Communications to use fund balance accumulated and unspent in 2020 to increase the financing and spending budgets in the general government phone services account by $118,285.
All right, and this public hearing was held virtually. As such, Ms. Jalali moves to close the public hearing and approve. Any discussion? Roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brennan.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted. The legislative hearing officer recommends adoption of the following resolutions as no objections to these recommendations were received. Item 31, RLH TA 21-281, 939 Conway Street. Item 32, RLH FCO 21-116, 36 Dale Street South. Item 34, RLH BBR 21-46, 1066 DeSoto Street. Item 36, RLH TA 21-275, 1203 Edmond Avenue. Item 38, RLH TA 21-280, 2015 Ivy Avenue East. Item 39, RLH FCO 21-107, 1126 Lincoln Avenue. Item 40, RLH TA 21-305, 461 Lyndhurst Avenue West. Item 41, RLH VO 21-24, 1569 Margaret Street. Item 42, RLH FCO 21-115, 872 Payne Avenue. Item 44, RLH TA 21-274, 2162 Stewart Avenue. Item 46, RLH AR 21-60, Property Cleanup Services. And item 47, RLH AR 21-61, Property Cleanup Services also. And again, the motion is to adopt these items.
So moved by Mr. Tao. Any discussion? Roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted. For the following items, no objection to the legislative hearing officer's amended recommendation were received, and therefore she recommends amendment and adoption. Item 35, RLH RR 21-11, 318 Edmond Avenue. Item 37, RLH TA 21-56, 1340 4th Street East. And item 45, RLH TA 21-22, 649 Western Avenue North. And again, the motion is to amend and adopt.
So moved by Mr. Tao. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearings are closed and the resolutions are adopted as amended. For the following item, the legislative hearing officer's recommendation is to continue the public hearing to January 19th. It is item 43, RLH TA 21-309. Sorry, my eyes are tearing up. 869 Sherburne Avenue. And again, the motion is to continue the public hearing to January 19th.
So moved by Mr. Tao. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The public hearing is continued to January 19th. And for the following item, the legislative hearing officer's recommendation is to refer to legislative hearing on August 17th. It's for item 33, RLH FCO 21-113, 710 DeSoto Street. And again, the motion is to refer to legislative hearing on August 17th.
All right. So moved by Ms. Yang. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Prince,
Aye.
Tao,
Aye.
Tolbert,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Jalali,
Aye.
Council President Brenman.
Aye.
6 in favor, no one opposed. The resolution is referred to the August 17th legislative hearing.
All right. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. Before we adjourn for this beautiful summer day. Does anyone have news from the wards or things that they would like to share to the public before we adjourn? Looks like people are still thinking, so I'm going to jump in with one. I'm really excited about 3 visits that we have in Marydale Park of the Bookmobile. This is the project that Huajang Kim worked on really hard before she left, and my new aide, Jessica Larson Johnson, just picked up the ball and ran with it when she took over here. And we had really wanted to try to get a bookmobile stop in an area that has high density and not a lot of access to other walkable amenities. And this is an area that we've also did a food giveaway in the middle of COVID. And so today, the 11th and the 18th from 10 until 2, there will be a bookmobile at Marydale Park. And it's fun because you can go to the bookmobile, go to the park, walk around the lake. There's other activities there, but anytime you start something new, there's a lighter turnout on the first day. I just want to make sure that folks are aware of it for the 11th and the 18th, because it's wonderful to have it in this location. It's very walk to for families leading up till the days that school starts. Sometimes you run out of things to do, and the bookmobile is at Marydale Park on Wednesdays from 10 until 12. And today we got some really cute pictures of kids doing some STEM projects there, so it's wonderful. Ms. Prince.
Thank you, Council President Brenmon. I want to announce on behalf of my colleagues who share Railroad Island with me, that being Council President Brenmon and Council Member Yang, that the Minnesota Music Cafe was named the #2 music venue in Minnesota after First Avenue. So it was a tough field. In the Star Tribune, Minnesota's Best People's Choice Award. And we are all so proud of the Minnesota Music Cafe and its owner, Karen Palm, who runs an incredible venue there with tremendous music and great vibes. So I encourage everybody to, if you haven't been, to keep an eye on the Minnesota Music Cafe and the great programming that they have. I also want to call attention, like Council President Brenmon, on this Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. at Sunray Library. Sunray is going to be hosting the Art Mobile. This is in collaboration with the Eastside Arts Council. And you're encouraged to bring your 3 to 10-year-olds with masks on to join us for free outdoor drop-in arts classes for kids. And this is really exciting. The teaching artists will be Yang Yang, Tamina Muhammad, and Zoe Rogers. So that's this Thursday from 1 to 3 at Sunray Library.
Thank you. I didn't even know there was an art mobile. That sounds fantastic.
Pretty cool.
Any other news or announcements from the wards? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, it's one of those Wednesdays where we had an org committee and huge information came our way, and then another a great meeting. Lots of stuff, lots of ground covered today. So thanks everyone for your hard work, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.